Hey everyone, welcome back to the Data Wrangling 101 YouTube channel. Last week, we looked at completing a sales related analysis using KNIME, and as an output of the analysis, the workflow generated an Excel file with summarized data. If you worked with KNIME and used the Excel Writer node in KNIME, you know that it generates a plain Jane file with zero formatting. Other than controlling the sheet name, the Excel Writer node cannot do any formatting. What if you want the workflow to generate an Excel output that you could send to your stakeholders or boss without spending any more time formatting it to make it look pretty? This week, I am showing you how to do just that. Let's make those Excel outputs shine. We'll look at formatting Excel cells using KNIME, adding background colors, bold fonts, text alignments, and even conditional formatting, all programmatically. Here's a sample dataset with names, cities, and financials, assets and liabilities. This is how an Excel output looks that might come out of a KNIME workflow. We are going to transform this using KNIME and the XLS formatting nodes into something like this. All of the formatting applied here: the background color for the header, the gray background color for the names and the city information columns, and the conditional formatting for the financial columns of assets and liabilities. All of this was done using a KNIME workflow without any manual intervention. Let me show you how I went about doing it. To make this happen, I discovered something that was completely new to me: KNIME's Continental XLS formatting nodes, which I have never used before. I started by asking Gemini that I wanted to format an Excel file to make it more readable and easy to interpret. Gemini told me about the XLS formatting nodes by Continental. It also explained to me what nodes to use, how to structure the workflow, and how to configure the individual nodes. So this is how the workflow diagram looks that Gemini proposed. Overall, Gemini gave me a very good overview of what I needed to do, although some of the names of nodes that Gemini said are completely imaginary. For example, this node doesn't exist in KNIME. Gemini just made it up and told me to use that. Anyway, I pointed that back to Gemini and then it corrected and said, yes, that kind of node doesn't exist. Next, I turned to KNIME AI Assistant, or K-AI, which exists inside KNIME, to help me build the workflow. It suggested tagging logic and recommended that I use a table creator node to tag the various cells in the file so that the XLS nodes can then apply the required formatting to the tags and in turn to the cells in the file. But the output wasn't quite working right. Finally, I hit gold by finding this example workflow on the KNIME Hub. This workflow shows an excellent way of using the XLS formatting nodes to apply formatting to an Excel file. So as I mentioned earlier, using the XLS formatting nodes, I applied a light blue background, center alignment, and bold and auto column width to the header row or the column headings. Next, I use another background color formatting node to change the background color of all of these nodes to light gray. Finally, the assets column and the liabilities column, both of them got conditional formatting applied. The conditional formatting on the asset column goes from red to yellow to green, red being applied to the lowest of the values, green being applied to the highest of the values, and yellow applied to the values in the middle range. The liability column has a conditional formatting applied that goes from green to yellow to red, meaning the lower values get a color of green, indicating lower the liabilities, the better is from a financial point of view. Yellow is for the middle range of liabilities, and red for the high ranges of financial liabilities. To achieve this, tagging is key. Let's now go to the workflow and I'll explain how the workflow uses the XLS formatting nodes to apply the formatting. The first step to this workflow is to import the raw Excel file into the workflow using an Excel Reader node. The way I've applied tags to the cells of this table is using expression. I have applied a tag of text for all the values in the ID column, first name column, last name column, city, state province, and the country column. Then I've applied a tag of asset for all the values in the assets column and a tag of liability for all the values in the liabilities column. Once this is done, the next step is to pass on this tagging table to the XLS control table generator. The configuration of this node is to select the right column header to first row option and leave the rest as default. The next step is to create a tag for the header row. That is done using the XLS control table from cell range node. In here, I specify the cell range, which is A1 to H1, the very first row of the table, and I set a tag to this cell range called header, and I'm using the append mode to append the tag header to the tagging table. You'll see that each cell in the top row of my table has a header tag appended to it in the tagging table. So once we have tags available in our workflow, the next step is to start applying the formatting using the formatting nodes. The first step that I'm doing is to apply the background color of light gray to all the cells that are tagged with the tag text. So I take my output from the XLS control table generator and provide that as an input to the XLS background colorizer node, and I configure it by specifying the tag that I want this formatting to be applied, and I'm saying change color. I select a color of light gray and leave the rest as is. The next step is to apply the conditional formatting to the asset column. Once again, the input to my conditional formatter is the tagging table, and I want the background color that I specified for the text tags to the configuration for the XLS conditional formatter node needs the tag to be specified here, which is asset in this case, and my minimum value, mid value, and max value are specified in the fields provided here, and I'm also selecting the colors that I want to associate with the mid, min, and max values using these options. Before I go to the next step, I want to make sure that my background color applied to the text tagged cells is included with the conditional formatter to be passed on further down the line. The next step is to apply a currency formatting to the asset column, and that is done using the XLS cell formatter. The tag is going to be a set, and I'm using a preset text format from this dropdown and selecting the financial text format. Once again, the input to this XLS cell formatter is my tagging table output. In this way, I am queuing up the formatting one by one and applying all the formatting that I want to be applied to the various cells in the column defined by the tags that are in the tagging table and also in the control table from cell range node. So these four nodes apply the formatting to the text columns, asset column, and the liability column. And these nodes, header, background color, header text alignment, header bold and font size, these three nodes control the formatting of my header row. And finally, these two nodes control the column width that I want to apply onto the header and the text columns. Both of these get an auto sizing, so they display the full text in the cells. Notice how I continue to join the output from each of these formatting to the next formatting node, forming a chain that keeps on adding the list of formattings to be applied, and it keeps on passing that down the lane until we finally pass on all of this formatting instructions to the XLS formatter node. The way the XLS formatter node works is that it needs an input file, the raw file which doesn't have any formatting, as a source. Then it needs a output file name as a destination, and if you select the open output after execution option after you run it, it is going to automatically open the output Excel file so you can take a look at the final output. As an option, you could automatically create the name of the output file using the name of the input file. In this case, I'm using the file name from my Excel reader node and creating two file names out of it. One is the input file name and the other one is the output file name, which is the input file name with an addition of underscore formatted in the file name. I pass on both of these file names to my Excel formatter node, and I'm using flow variables. I am using the names specified in the flow variables, so I don't have to manually specify the name. It is important to remember that every XLS formatting nodes needs a minimum of one input, which is the information about the tag. And in my case, the tags are header, text, asset, liability, and so on. And each tag represents a cell. The second input is used to queue up the instructions, the formatting instructions, so that all of them can be sent to the XLS formatter node that applies the formatting instructions to the Excel file at the very end. This is the same approach that is used in the Excel formatting example workflow available on the KNIME Hub. Once all the tags and instructions are in place, KNIME does the rest beautifully, and with a single click, you can programmatically apply all this formatting to your input file every time you run the same analysis and generate the same output.
So what did I learn? 1. AI tools are great for getting started, but following them blindly may not give you the results you want, at least not in this case. 2. KNIME's XLS formatting nodes are powerful, but take some experimentation. There are more than one ways to use them, and I have explained one of the ways to use them in this video. And finally, 3. Don't skip looking at example workflows on the KNIME Hub. They are gold. The workflow that I built will also be uploaded to the KNIME Hub, so you can download it and experiment with it if you want. If you like this breakdown, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe for more automation and data wrangling tips with Excel, KNIME, Python, and AI. Thank you.